podcast about buying, collecting, and occasionally racing stock cars. I'm Scott, the one with no money and a lot of old cars to fix, and here's my co-host, the mad Declan Flyer of Oxford. It's
Pedro, also the mad lighting control. Whoa! Sorry. Carry on.
I wanted to start with a quote from a Greek philosopher, Ep30. Not easy to say that one. And here's the quote. He is a wise man who does not grieve for things which he has not, but rejoices for those things which he has.
Yeah.
You're meant to ask me why I've said that.
Well, it's percolating through, and Scott, why have you used that quote? Please inform
us. Because
wonderful
doing research for the show, that's what we call it, isn't it? That endless hours of trawling on eBay and looking at slot forums and slot which sailors.
I knew there was something I was supposed to do.
Anyway, due to a series of unfortunate self-inflicted incidents, the slot car purchasing budget has been decimated. So consequently, I can't achieve any instant gratification by hitting buy now. So I'm having to content myself with what I've got. So I think I am-ish. Although I'm sort of relieved because there are still Polycar Ferraris in stock. So that's good to know that I'll get round to that eventually. And that the SRC Delta, which has been re-released, the Martini car, now I've got one, thankfully, and mine did not cost me £110.
You saw that then?
£110.
This is outrageous.
It's two. My barometer of soccer. It's two Carreras. It's more than two Carreras. It's nearly three Carreras. It's two Skeletric.
I hate to say it.
I mean, lovely models, but wow.
I hate to say it, but I think I don't like myself for saying it. I think you'd get twice the joy out of it, though. Maybe. However,
no.
You would have to deal with. I hope I haven't mentioned this before because my thing about us repeating ourselves, granted we're old gits, is a thing. I don't like the idea that we repeat each other. Have a sup, why don't you? Hey, Slaughter. I'm going to call you Dave Slaughter from now on. Is that tea or coffee? Well, I hope it's coffee. Otherwise, we'll lose Dave Slaughter as a subscriber.
It's tea. I don't really drink coffee.
Don't tell Dave that. Anyhow, hello, Dave.
Well, he does. I'm sure he'd be happy. There's more tea in the world for Dave, so that's.
I thought it was coffee he drank. Oh, never mind. Back on track. See what I did there? It's about slot cars. Oh, never mind.
Very good. Well done.
Sometimes the genius. SRC, I got a Capri. I'm very happy with my Capri. It looks quite the business, but the hubs are just rubbish. I thought SRC was serious players in many ways, and their movement into the hypercar thing also something that broke yesterday, or rather came in stock yesterday for us here in Blighty. But their hubs, the axle goes through the hub, and the grub screw to fix the hub is in the middle of that ridge in the hub, which means you can't really glue your tyres on. And I just think that's schoolboy errors. And for that reason, I'm out.
Okay, that's good. So what are you going to spend your £110 on instead?
That Bilstein Capri from BRM in 124th is looking pretty. Actually, is it Kent Racing? The white and bronzy one, that's also looking good. That caught my eye, since you ask.
A 124th
Capri, yeah. See, I've got a 124th Alpha, and it'll go nicely alongside that. I'm trying very hard, very slowly, to get the Oxford boys into 124th. It's not going well, I have to say, because I'm the only one who's got any. But
I was going to say that would limit the attraction.
Yeah, the money is the
how
thing,
much?
I think.
How much are they? I shudder to ask.
I was hoping it was £110, and it would fit nicely with that comparison, but I suspect it might be more.
I think it might, but anyway, you never know. So apart from being dumbfounded and poor, what else has caught your eye this week?
Caught my eye this week?
I'm the one that's dumbfounded and poor, to be honest.
You don't really want to know what's caught my eye this week because 3 letters covers it.
It's got nothing to do with...
3 letters.
I'm going to guess. I'm going to guess. I'm going to guess. Is one of them N? Is one of them S? And one of them
Oh,
R?
that is spooky. How did you work that out? Of
Yeah,
all the 26 letters in the
because
alphabet, you got the 3 that I was going to go. I'm gonna keep it brief, but NSR,
uh,
please do not put something like a 2016 livery, 5 minutes and 22. Anyone who's got 5 minutes and 22, we are paying out on 5 minutes and 22. Don't put that
we're not
livery
really paying
on
out, by the way.
on a 2007 Porsche 997. That just it's taking the mickey. Produce a new mold, produce some new car, proper liveries, and you might get my money. Here, there's some hypocrisy we might come to later. Yeah,
Really, with
where
us.
when we
I'm
get
sorry.
to the section we like to call "What have you bought this week?" There might be some hypocrisy creeping in. But that caught my eye.
Okay.
But I know what will have
All
caught
right.
your eye.
What? Ah, on the spot.
The van, another van.
The van. Yes, I'm a bit of a rally fan, and it does
Just a
seem to
bit.
be that the big slot trend, the big slot trend of 2023 is vans,
Hmm.
because the long-awaited Fly van is coming.
Is it?
This is a new,
I didn't
yeah,
see that. Well, hang on.
and a
Is
van.
that like new news or just old news?
No, they didn't. I mean, they re-announced it back in
Okay,
January,
old
didn't they?
news.
So we
Yeah,
have
yeah,
to
yeah,
hope.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, but then we've had the Transit from Avant Slot, the old Transit. We've already had a GMC and a Fiat from them, and what they've shown this week is a VW, presumably to tow around Audi Quattros, which will be coming shortly as well. So jolly
Ooh.
nice, but so far, I have resisted buying a van. Um, the transit was very
Can I
close.
just point
The
out the
red
reason you've
the red
resisted
one,
is because they're
because
effety jeffety expensive.
they're 200 quid
Yeah.
each. Yeah, that's it. Which anyway, on the Brownlee scale of what else could I buy? The answer is lot. I mean, you could fill a basket with slot cars at some well-known retailer. Um,
Ah.
Speaking of which, I may not have had any slot cars this week, but I did take delivery of, and I'm going to reach behind me, dear listener. So forgive me if it goes
So if he
quiet.
falls
I
over,
did.
we all get to giggle. Have you seen that? Have you seen that video on Tinternet of some guitarist recording himself about to play a riff, and he just leans back, falls off his chair, and for some reason it went viral, and
I went, yeah,
everyone laughed.
much more popular than any guitaring he could ever
Yes,
do.
exactly.
Uh,
Fall off
no,
tomorrow.
this was a pre-order that I made back in January, and it arrived last week. And it is, and I'm slowly revealing it to the camera, folks. And what I'm slowly revealing is an Airfix box for the reissued Bond
Could
Bug
you
model.
offer it up again and hold it there
I could have.
briefly? Not because I'm desperate to see it, really. Oh,
Oh,
look at
probably.
the dude driving
It
it.
was,
That artwork. He's got
well,
his denim shirt. Has
well,
he got a medallion? It's it's almost worth it for the artwork, but I have to say it's probably not worth it. Why in God's name did you buy that?
the model and the artwork originate in 1971, and it was reissued in 1974 and then hasn't been seen since. And it was believed we would never see it again, partly because they'd lost some of the tooling. However, they found it and they re engineered the bit that was missing, which was the glass. And this was, apparently, I'm reliably informed, the most pre ordered Airfix kit ever. So,
A Bond bug,
why am I telling you that? A Bond bug.
not a
So
Messerschmitt
that
or a
arrived, and
Spitfire or a Lancaster bomber.
no, a Bond bug. And I need some orange paint. So I went to Gauge Master to get some orange
Oh,
paint.
I've probably got some of that.
And that was a real test, because, as you know, Gauge Master is a big shop and they've got lots of slot cars on display. I stood and I looked at them all. I even picked up a few boxes. I may have stroked a few boxes, but I put them all back. I didn't buy any slot cars. I just bought some paint. What was interesting, though,
Wow.
was that there were some SCX cars where, well, depending how you look, some they stock Carrera SCX, they stock pretty much everything, but they're the distributor for some people. Anyway, there were Scalextric's Formula E cars for 40 quid, which is cheap, I think.
Ooh.
There was the new Escort 40 Embassy, which was 45 quid, which is cheaper than retail recommended price, I think. But Carreras were about 45 quid, but some of the SCX were over 50.
Did they?
So what's the point of all of this is to say it pays to shop around. It really does pay to shop around because the prices seem to be varying by 10-15%, depending on which retailer you look at.
That's, I would say, probably par for the course. Can I just point out, because we are now on YouTube and we are showing our ugly mugs, and some people will still be using legacy technology of an actual MP3 player or something and just listening. They're the same people using that bloody 3D toaster printing thing, whatever it is. Your little eyes lit up. Your little face glowed with an orange glow. It may just have been a reflection from the box. As soon as you got your hands on that little Bond bug kit. So I don't.
It's crucially, it's 1/32 scale.
So that was going to be my crucial question. It's going to be small,
yeah.
isn't it? Like,
it's a tiny wee
small.
thing. Tiny wee thing. It's small, and it's going to make an interesting companion to my also previously re-released beach buggy kit, which I still haven't built. But I wonder. So I'll be hunting the swap meets of winter once we huddle together in slightly dubious sports halls for a cheap Reliant Robin, Skeletrix Reliant Robin, because surely if they're all scale, the mechanics for the Reliant Robin will fit neatly in under the body of the Bond bug. And ta-da!
You won't get a cheap one of those, though, will you? Because they're in a box set and the collectors, fools that they are, hoover them up.
Everything comes to he who is patient.
Is that
No,
epidermis
that's Scott
again?
Brownlee. Epititis.
That's what I said. Well, I'm glad you're happy with that. Truly,
yeah, I know it's not a slot car, but it could be a slot car. But the interesting thing is that most pre-ordered Airfix kit.
That's curious.
Ever.
Why? That's bizarre.
I think demographic. Old blokes. I think it's old blokes, isn't it? All of us old blokes going, oh, I remember that when I was a kid and I want one of those.
Yeah, you might remember it from when you were a kid, but were you not, like me, the kid who pointed at them and laughed?
No. Oh God, Bond bugs.
Yeah.
One of my favorite dinky corgis was a Bond bug.
One of your favorite dinky toy cars was a bright orange 3-wheeler.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we end it here then, Scott. Apologies to the two Americans, the imaginary Canadian.
I have a very broad. I was once interviewed, which is very rare, about my career in car industry, and somebody said, what were my favourite kind of cars and all that. And I think there was a sort of expectation I was going to say some of the big, fancy, expensive whatever. And I said, the little ones, because it's far harder to make a good little car, and it's more interesting to kind of use them than it is something where there's budget's no problem and you can make it as big and heavy as you like. Is that's easy, isn't it? Really, something that's got to be tiny into a budget. It's really quite interesting. So Fiat Panda is a really interesting little car. The original one, I mean, not the dreadful new ones. So anyway, we're very far away from slots, other than to say, Simon in Margate, if you're listening, nip over to the other side of the corridor in the office, talk to the Airfix blokes, and let's see if we can have a Bond Bugs electric car. You've already got the running gear under the Reliant. But I'll bet he's already planning it.
Simon is a gentleman and a scholar, as previously discussed on this very podcast, and he is such a gentleman. He's the sort of gentleman who knows how to play the bagpipes, but does not play the bagpipes because he's a gentleman.
That's gentleman, yeah.
We're not. It's almost like we never planned things or stick to a plan. St. Dave of Kennedy has a thing about his T-shirts. There's two things that are piquing my curiosity at the moment as I look at my screen, because we're on YouTube, dear listener. You can see us on YouTube. I can only make out.
Why you'd want to, but you
can't. I can only make out a little bit of your T-shirt, and it appears to me to say the number 1001, which I'm sure it doesn't. 1983. Why have you? Oh, and Martini colours. Yes. What did they win in 1983?
And what would be the next one in the sequence?
1984.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I see. And then 1985. But that's Audi.
So 1983 Martini, then 1984 Audi,
Oh, that one?
1985
Peugeot.
Peugeot, Peugeot Sport.
Oh.
So World Rally Champions, you see.
Well, I did ask.
T-shirts available from VHS
I
rallies.
did ask the question. Did you see?
You did.
Because you sent me a link, and this time I've watched them. Dear listener/viewer, this is the 4th time I believe we've tried to record this very podcast. That's the level of dedication we have, and that's the level of technology failures and also editorial disputes that we've had.
Speaks volumes of our competency, doesn't it?
It was 3 failures and 1. Anyhow, I forgot.
Yeah, it was a question. You can't say that. We don't have a lawyer.
That Dave Kennedy, that Saint Dave of Kennedy,
Yes.
said nice things about us.
They did.
You sent me a link, and initially I hadn't.
Doesn't
I
everyone?
had to confess I hadn't watched them. Good point, well made. Everyone says good things until they say bad. And I'm not trying to provoke people into saying bad things about us. We know we're bad. We're talking utter slot. He was confusing the hell out of me because he was wearing a Canada T-shirt, and I suddenly thought, hang on, is Dave Kennedy trolling us, and is he making out he's the imaginary Canadian? See what he's done there?
You know, you might be onto
something
there.
there.
Do you think you're onto something there? So, despite the fact that he clearly doesn't live in Canada, he is pretending to be the Canadian.
And the fact that he's
it's a theory,
and he's doing that kind of deviousness is bang out of order. But thanks for the nice, kind words, Dave. Oh dear. Let's move on.
He's even been imitating. He even listens to you about scale auto grey.
He did a hand gesture.
That'll teach him.
He did my hand gesture. You have to watch previous episodes.
He did your hand, yeah.
Anyhow,
you realise this means you're some sort of influencer. You've got to be careful now.
Of course I am, mate. Of course I am. I'll get free hotels and everything. Did you see? This was the other thing I was going to complain about.
Okay, all right. We're sitting
down. Sit down. Make yourself comfy.
A problem shared is a problem not fixed.
Did you see Fly are selling their figures, £15 a pop, for a figure of supposedly of a racing driver with his hands on his hip in a strange stance, crash helmet on his head so you can't see his face. 15 quid to you, Squire. This one is apparently Ronnie Peterson. This one is apparently Mario Andretti. This one is apparently whoever. 15 quid. Who's buying the 997s dressed up like 991s? Who's buying £15 for a figure? I mean, you couldn't even put it on a scenic. I know you want to interrupt. You couldn't put that on a scenic track and have it look anything other than odd. Defend it if you can. And you can't.
Schrodinger's racing drive. I can't see
it's you.
And once you get over the unbridled joy of just being able to flick a switch and play with toy cars at any time you want, you'll start putting scenery out. There'll be buildings, there'll be people, possibly hospitals, airplanes, Ferris wheels, the whole thing.
Hospitals?
When you come to visit, you'll... the two things that you need to be warned about, Miley. I have, the first aid hut, the old first aid hut from Skeletrix.
Yeah.
I have equipped mine with a set of Britain's... it's a hospital bed and some nurses and a doctor. Then why wouldn't you? And a friend of mine made me a nightclub. So
You've
on the track, there's a nightclub complete with the glitter ball and the lights. Yeah. So having Ronnie Peterson with his hands on his hips entirely fits in.
Oh, I wonder. So here's the thing.
I think I've stunned him into
we have discussed this. Yeah. My track, I do dream of a permanent track. I do dream of a scenic track. I used to love, keep getting his name wrong, but I'm going to say Luff. There was an American who routed things a lot and inspired a whole generation of routers. and had a website full of really lovely, simply lovely scenic tracks. There's one on slotforum.com. Other forums are available. Just Google, you'll find them. Then you'll go to slotforum.com. Loch Downs, I think it's called, which should appeal to you and your Scottish heritage.
Loch
Loch
Downs.
Downs.
Oh, is that the one he sawed in half to move?
I don't know that.
Oh, there was one of the guys had a great big scenic track, and he had to move like huge distance from like the
Wow.
northwest down to Texas or
Oh.
something. And the only way to fit it in the removal truck was to sort of saw
No,
bits off it.
stop. It's not a truck, it's a hauler. That one was definitely a hauler.
In that case, definitely a hauler. I'll give you that one. That was definitely a
No,
hauler.
Loch Downs is just a work of art. And I'm going to associate him with some truly amazing scale photos of cars coming around corners, and it's all deeply inspiring. We should put a link in the description or something to his thread,
We should.
because it's
If
amazing.
we knew how to do that, we would.
And my
we
point
would.
is, my point is,
you know, in YouTube videos, you get people going, "I'll put a link here."
why
Yeah,
do
we
they
don't
do
know how
that?
to do
The
that.
link is above me, not on the one I'm watching, mate. You can point up there all you want. I have never seen a link up there.
Links.
I generally watch YouTube on my telly box, and the link. Anyway, I do dream of a scenic track, and I live vicariously via Loch Downs. I am planning to make my 3 boards, which I now do believe are a little bit big and a little bit heavy, but I'm planning to put as much scenery as I can, which isn't a lot, on them. And guess what my inspiration will be? The clue is I can't have a lot of scenery. You'll never get there. Is it Norris Ring, where the DTM boys went round the Hitler bit?
Oh yes, yeah. So you're going to have a giant stone plinth with some Nazis in it.
You've done it to me now. You crack me up. A giant stone plinth with some 1/32 Nazis. No, I'm probably not going to go that far, Scott. I think my my political positions are curious, but they're not there.
I should explain for those who don't know, that's a very weird
that
thing.
neither of us are
So
Nazis.
They do indeed. The race, which is effectively a street race, is held in and around the parade ground, effectively, that the huge gatherings that Hitler and the Nazis famously had and are filmed. So I think it's a wonderful way of overcoming. I mean, slightly political side. It's a wonderful way of saying, what do we do with all this? Do we blow it up? Do we deny it? Go, no, let's race cars around it and sell silly hats and lots of hamburgers and hot dogs. Brilliant.
It's actually, if you study photos of it as much as I bloody well have recently, there are options to make even a concrete Nazi stadium into quite an interesting piece of modelling. If the trouble is, everything's got to come off when I put it away, and that is going to be the limiting factor. But you spend enough time on Magnetic Racing's website dreaming. You think, I couldn't I? I could have, and if I cut it, like, I could make that work. I could do that. I could do it. But so far, I was so tempted recently to just go, sod it, just buy one and see what it looks like. If you can use it, you can use it. If you can't, you can't. Just because I wanted to buy.
What was this? What were you going to buy?
Various. The pit lane thing. So I imagine my track is going to be very tight on the edge of the boards, but I thought if I get just pit walls, I could line one straight with just some pit walls and a bit of fencing, and that would look vaguely realistic. I'm not sure it will, because I suddenly thought, hang on, that fencing is going to cast all sorts of shadows on the back. That might be a bit crap. And they do various Marshall stands, and I thought I might be able to have one of those. I do have in the shed, and I will try and dig it out for the next. Sorry, I called it a shed. It's the Oxfordshire Centre for Technical Excellence and Technical Scenery. In there, I have a Revel, I believe, snap fit kit of a digger. I was going to say something bad about I won't say it at all. Which I thought I might be able to position somewhere on the track if I actually bother to assemble it. And so little bits, I think, whereas Loch Downs, he can go the full 12 yards, he can do at least a few yards with full-on scenery. I'm going to have to be truly economic with what I do, and it will therefore be quite good. Maybe
Oh, I see what you mean. So
less will
a little,
be
but
less.
less will be
Well,
more.
less will be
A
less,
sort of
and hopefully more.
Bauhaus slot car track sort of thing.
Which would fit
Moves
if it's
back to
German.
the
Yeah.
Norseman. It's very good. Well, when you do come to visit, make sure you give plenty of time because I'm already enjoying hearing the exasperation and exclamations that you give when I invite you to rummage through my scenery boxes.
The only thing I will
um,
insist
but
on, if and when I come, is that you actually open that cardboard box that has your castle in it. Because,
the
yeah,
castle,
we need to.
yeah. Well,
If you're new to the
if that's
channel,
what
you've
it
got to
takes
go
to
back a
get you
long
here,
way.
that's what it takes to get
But
you
he's
here.
got a castle in a box,
Then
ladies
yeah.
and gentlemen. There's no, you can't follow that.
In which case, anyway, back to slot cars. Cars. Do you remember a while ago I said, "Are there any Renault 5 turbos that Fly haven't done?"
You did, and
Or
somebody corrected
I
us.
think I said that.
Somebody corrected us because
Uh,
one of us, probably me, said Renault 4s, and in the comments they corrected us and said, "I think you mean Renault 5s." Pray continue.
yeah.
We do mean Renault
Uh,
5s.
anyway, so I was speculating that there were none left for them to model, and they instantly proved me wrong. In conjunction with Hobby Classic, because it's a Hobby Classic only special edition. Lovely Renault 5. All Renault 5 turbos are lovely, so that goes without saying. And it's mostly white with red, and I think it's sponsored by something called Radiola, which I presume is a Spanish sponsor. Nothing I've ever seen or heard of, but it looks lovely. But see previous comments. Don't have any money, so I'm having to
And
resist.
this is the point at which I should be writing
Mm.
down insert picture here and not actually saying insert picture here. But we should insert a picture
Picture up.
of said Renault
I
4
will. I will
slash
do that.
5.
I will do that. I will do that. In fact, I'll sprinkle like illustrative fairy dust pictures throughout the
So what
video.
was that quote again? Because I feel like I could bring...
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
you want me to remember something that
Yeah.
detailed? It was basically don't if you haven't got stuff, don't worry. Just be happy with what you've got.
I am
That would be
happy with what
the
I've got.
T-shirt would be happy with what you've
I'm
got.
happy with what I've got. And that is my collection. Dear listener, you can't see it, but I'm pointing to the cabinet that holds my
He's pointing
collection.
to a wall cabinet which
The
has one,
whole
two, three,
collection.
4, 5 shelves. It's about 2 foot square, I'm guessing, from
Not
this
even
far
2 foot
back.
square.
And he's trying to pretend that that's all the
It's
slot
all I've
cars
got.
he's got.
It's all I've got.
Yeah,
And
you poor man.
the huge pile of cardboard boxes under the stairs to my left isn't in camera. That is my collection.
Is it? So that doesn't count.
I'm
Okay.
happy with most of my collection. I'm happy. Yeah, I've whittled down my collection to cars that I want to own and keep. The Renault 5, I find I am curiously interested in, but I like the fact it's like the... Oh no, don't say Shadow DN4. Oops, said it. It's like the Shadow DN4. I like the fact it exists. I can appreciate it as a model. I don't want one. The Renault 5, I'm having to tell myself I don't want one. So that's actually higher up the chart than the
Oh,
Shadow.
I think I understand. I think I understand that one. Yeah, you're having to actively resist
Yeah,
having one, as opposed
because
to
I
yeah.
good model,
Um,
and they do
I,
for now. They do
do do
some
they do
really good
do
libraries on it,
do do endlessly.
endlessly. Yeah.
Apparently, I mean there's no end to the number of Renault
It's
5
like their
nibbles,
E30.
which is good. I'm not complaining. I just wish I could afford
Yeah.
them all. But
It's like their E30. I am so tempted, and I did nearly pull the trigger on an E30 until somebody pointed out the motors at the front. It's just stupid,
it is. But
stupid, stupid,
it's
stupid.
fine. It's not. It's fine.
It's stupid.
It's fine. Not all slot cars have to be speed crazed,
Shall
whatever
I
they are.
tell you? Shall I show you, dear viewer, dear
Oh,
listener,
show me. Show
dear
me.
Scott?
And then shall I audio describe as you
Yeah,
show?
a car that
Peter, who's wearing a slightly dark green and check
I'm going to have
shirt.
to try and get this car in that tiny, tiny cabinet, and I don't know how I'm going to do it. I'm not going to pull anything out of there.
Are you going to Are you going to shrink like you're going and being John Malkovich? Is that what it is? You're going to shrink down and go back in?
Oh no, 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 no,
You
no,
haven't
no,
seen Being John
no.
Malkovich,
But
have you?
immediately I was thinking of Raquel Welch in that one where they made her small and injected her into something. Oh,
They injected it.
Raquel Welch.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
What you're saying is you want me to fill while you wander across the room. Is that what
no,
it is?
this time I was prepared. One of the earlier attempts at recording this, I forgot to pick it up, so I had to go and get it out of the cabinet, which gives a lie. It's already got a space in the cabinet. What am I going to put in front of the camera, people?
Oh, he's holding up the newly released Skeletrix Camaro Z28, I believe is the right
I
pronunciation,
believe you're right.
in the black and green BBL livery. It is a lovely thing, and that's one. If I wasn't following my Greek philosopher, I would be very tempted
I
by.
was.
And it's from Spa 24 Hours, which is now the go-to race for slot car
It is
inspiration.
indeed.
I think.
It is indeed.
Oh,
There's
it
so
deserves.
many peachy liveries from there, and I will take this opportunity because we know he listens. He might deny it, but we know he listens. Simon at Margate, make a blooming BMW 528. You could put a Giton livery on it. You could put Bastos. You could put everything on it. And while you're there, a Volvo 240T. The only problem I have with this, which I hadn't noticed in the Bastos version, is the ride is absolutely woeful. There's so much space between the arches and the wheel. Because I Googled it, I got it in my hands and thought, wow, got excited that I thought I'd got some kind of weird factory error with this blue bit on the window. And thought, oh, it's
So there's a
that.
little blue rectangle on one of the
Oh, sorry
windows.
for
Yeah,
the benefit of the people using old
yeah.
legacy technology. Um, but the car actually ran with that, so I don't know why it had a weird blue thing on it. But the ride height issue is really annoying me now. I'm going to have to go with a three
3D printed chassis.
3D on it. Oh, grubby.
The universe rejoices. Yes. Okay. So the ride height worries you that much, does it?
Yeah, because if you look at the pictures, the actual car was slammed. The top of the wheels barely could be seen. They were right up in the arches. Phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, that's true. That's true of most of the Group A cars, isn't
Is
it? I
it?
think all of the
Yeah, probably.
Capri and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not so fussed about the
Even
Capri.
even my beloved Rover. Well, no, it's interesting that you're going to put a 3D chassis in for aesthetic reasons, not for performance ones. That's a turn up for
That's
the
an
books.
interesting.
That
I
is.
hadn't thought about that. Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, it's because I'm hoping we need to talk to that friend of the show, Johnny Worthing Workshop. He's got a 3D toaster, and he could probably do a chassis. Sorry, St Dave, but it's chassis, not chassis. He could probably do one and do it in the right, because this is a sidewinder, being a Trans Am. So the motor is
Yeah.
there, and that silver bit is the motor. So I was thinking a 3D chassis might retain the sidewinderness, and I wouldn't have to chop up the interior, because I don't like the idea of chopping up
That's
interiors.
interesting. That's interesting because you're right. There's a sort of apart from the AMC, wasn't there? There was a consistency that all the
Yeah,
Mustang, the Camaros, the old Camaros were always
yeah,
sidewinders. But I believe the Capri and the without them in my hand, the Capri and the Rover and the Jag
inline.
are in
Yep.
line. So although this is interesting where worlds collide, as it were. So
Where
uh,
disappointingly in
I'm
the past, and I think Simon is all over this, they would 1 minute do sidewinder, 1 minute do FF motor, 1 minute do inline, and they would all be cars from the same class, but you couldn't race them box standard together because one was sidewinder and one was inline and one had that stupid FF motor.
hmm.
But it is
But
pretty.
again, I mean,
Let's
it is
feast
very
our eyes
pretty. But
again.
and I'm just and the wheels especially are very lovely. I have to say.
Are they?
Um, put it away because you're going to make me want to
Yeah.
buy one, and I can't afford it.
Okay.
So that's bring it with you when you come to visit, so I can stroke it and steal it
No,
from you.
I'm not having you do anything grubby with my slot cars, young man.
I should have said this was an accusation made to me. I don't think she meant anything. She did. She was being derogatory, but not in that way. My ex-wife accused me of stroking my toy cars. I just think I appreciate the finer details. That's all.
I'm for once.
Is
I'm
that
going to edit myself and not say a whole load of stuff that comes to mind with that.
I feel I have misplaced my notes. I have to say, of all
That
the things that we
explains
were
a
going to
lot.
talk about that we'd seen, that does explain a lot. Doesn't it? But I have a notion. Something's telling me we've forgotten to talk about something.
I was going
I
to
can't think what
talk
it is.
about having waved that again,
Oh, but it's
Camaro.
he's doing it again. He's taunting me. He's just taunting me with his
So
Camaro.
I watched a YouTube video. I suspect it might be one of the two Americans that listen to this nonsense. Although he
Okay.
didn't mention us, swine. It's an interesting, rather long video about him putting a digital chip in an NSR 908. And I was drawn initially because there was a picture of the 908 maybe on the thumbnail or something. And I just thought, I do. It's a nice livery. I think it's not sure if it's the Toblerone car or not, but it's the one they did with headlights for decals. No, decals for headlights even. And he talked you through the really dull process of putting a chip in this thing. I think he 3D printed the chip. That's how dull it was. And then he waves it at the camera, and I'm screaming at the telly. It was all out of focus. You couldn't see the damn car. You could see his face, and he's a charming fellow. But I almost reached for the laptop to go to the comment section and put in a thing like, please, next time,
Bash
would you
out.
do us the decent thing and actually show us the car in sharp relief? So that caught my eye and made me annoyed. And amused the hell out
Okay.
of me. I loved. He's got a massive Carrera track in his basement. Massive. I mean,
Are we talking about two lanes? Is it? I can't remember his name now. Sorry.
I don't know. Sorry, it didn't.
Uh, Two lines. Sorry,
I
two
don't know.
lines. I can't remember there's a channel called Two Lines something.
It's a 2-lane
Two Lines
track for
Slot
sure,
Racing,
and it's Carrera,
and it's a big
and it's
Carrera
big.
in a brick
Yes,
basement.
yes, yes.
Yeah, it looks a fantastic track.
Well,
Sometimes you see tracks, you think I'd really love to
it
drive
looks
that.
a twisty turny thing. I mean, he has gone the extra mile in trying to get as much track in as he could, but then he's got an American basement, which is they're all apparently just vast, and so he's got all this
Well,
Carrera. I was watching it when I go into a restaurant, I often sit there and go, okay, so they've got 30 tables with 4 people, and I'm trying to work out how much money they're taking. With him, I was looking at his track and thinking, he's got all that space, he's got all this. How much has that Carrera track cost him? And it's digital because he was putting a 3D printed digital chip into it. So, but I will watch more of his.
um,
The algorithm chucked me his stuff. Next time, I might actually give him a shout out and remember his name.
remember what his channel
He's one
name
of the
is. That would
two
be handy,
Americans, so
wouldn't
he
it?
knows who he is. There's only 2 Americans listen to
He
this.
knows there's only
One
two
is
of them.
Dave.
Do you think they know each other? Do you think they know each
Yeah,
other?
probably. It's a small country. They know each other.
It's a
Yeah,
small
they're very
country. Yeah,
friendly
they all
people.
know each other. I get asked that whenever I go somewhere. Oh, I know somebody from Scotland, and I have to go. Well, there are 6 million people there. It's a good chance we've met each other. No, there was something else about what's been
What?
revealed and
Oh,
released. What else
let
was there? Something
let
we
me
need?
check my notes
Mm,
because I haven't thrown them
yes,
away.
could you? Could you? Thank you. That's very
Yeah.
professional of you.
Oh, Fly Racing once again attempting to produce a racing version of a car by putting a hot motor, alloy hubbubs, and something else they're doing. I think there were 3 things I noted. Obviously,
Bigger guide, I think.
could be, and they're doing that on a BMW M1, which is nice. So I'm hoping that whatever they do um, can be
They do.
retrospectively fitted to one of my many Fly BMW M1s, which I love dearly. Um,
Was this?
but
Was it something they did on their own, or is this something they've done in conjunction with, I don't know, Crit Crack or Hobby
I
or
didn't
Hobby
I didn't read
Classic or
it that
whatever?
closely. I don't pay that much attention. I look at the
Mm.
pretty picture, pick out a few keywords. Next.
That has reminded me. I've remembered now. Saying that has triggered the thing I wanted to remember. So one of the things which we saw and talked about in all the previous recordings, which was that the race to launch the first slot version of the Ford Puma
Ah,
WRC car. Skeletric were first out the traps last year about this time when they announced that they were doing it. Then SCX said they were doing it. Prototypes were shown. Anyway, based on pictures I've seen from the Spanish websites, the SCX car appears to be out there. So well done to them. Interestingly, though, the Hobby Classic are doing a 3D printed chassis for that car at the time it's been launched so that you can fit go faster bits. axles, wheels, motors, all that sort of stuff. Now, again, not for me. I think an SCX car is fine as it is, but interesting that they had obviously worked with SCX to get the dimensions and all the details necessary for them to produce that so that it's ready for launch, which is exactly what's also happening with Scalextric and the classic Formula One cars, the Lotus 79 and the Brabham BT, I think 46. Forgive me if I got it
I
wrong.
think you've got it. Oh, no.
48, maybe.
I was going to say
48.
52, and it definitely ain't the 52.
No, not 52. So it's a 40 something. Anyway, the fan car. Those are been announced at the beginning of the year. We saw the prototypes at Gaydon in the summer. So those are coming fairly soon. But Scalextric have been working with, I think we're allowed to say, the Right Honourable. We're going to move him up. So the Right Honourable Mr. Roland, to say he made chassis for those models which will take Polycar running gear, so Polycar F1 running gear, and those are going to be available at the time that the car is launched. So interesting, I think, that we've got two of the, and no disrespect to call them this at all, the toy manufacturers working with specialists. Again, more the more limited, more engineering led, shall we, whatever you want to call it, people to produce go faster bits at the time of launch. And I don't think that's happened before, not in my knowledge anyway.
So many things to pick you up on there. Many
Okay,
things.
but I'm wrong about everything.
No, the only thing that I'll pick you up on is the way you refer to that Conti Roland. He's just that Conti Roland. You don't call him sir. You don't knight him. You don't make him a saint.
I think. Well, I think he designed. Correct me. He designed
the Polycar gear train
F1
thing.
running gear and stuff. I think that deserves, in the slot pantheon, that deserves some sort of elevation beyond mere.
I take your point, but to me, he's always that Conti Roland because he's always tinkering and doing good things. And I am with you completely, doffing my hat to Simon and whoever Manuel at SCX is for actually getting in touch with the hobbyists and doing something for the hobbyists as they produce their. I think they acknowledge they are toys, but they know that the hobbyists like them and mess with them and take them to the next level with the help of that Conti Roland and his 3D toaster. So I was concerned. I think I was excited by the Brabham. I didn't pre-order. I was excited by the Essex Lotus 79. You've got to have an Essex Lotus 79. And so I pulled the trigger on that basket and I ordered the bugger. And then increasingly thought, but it's because I've got a couple of Scalextric F1s and they don't run that well. Not if you back to back a Scalextric against a Polycar, it's not a good comparison. If you do it in isolation, they're not that bad really, but they're not in the sweet spot. And so I thought, but it's going to be an Essex Lotus 79, but it's not going to run that well. And there was something about the guide position. I think that might have been on the Brabham, not the 79. However, the news that Conti Roland had cranked out his 3D toaster and was, as we spoke, popping out a conversion thing made me think, boom. And I put words to that effect. And I also applauded, as I do now, Simon and Manuel for their work with the Puma. Doesn't really excite me. I saw a video of a Puma SCX1 and it looked like the guy was just running it in. It was on Instagram and it looked like he just jacked it up and was running it in. So I wondered if they were actually out and about, released.
Well, they look fairly finished, and my Spanish is so limited. I don't know, but I took it. I saw it in a number of places, so I presumed it to be
out.
That cars were out. We'll find out soon enough because I've got it on pre-order somewhere. Can't remember where. So like a pleasant surprise, a bit like my Bond bug. It'll just show up. It'll just be a parcel.
God, you had me so scared there for a minute because you said, "Bit like my Bond bug." The little eyes glowed again, and your right arm went, "No, don't do it." Oh, you bugger. Your right arm went out like you were going to reach and wave it. People don't want to see things repeatedly waved in their faces, Scott. They just don't want to see it.
It's a lovely thing.
They don't.
It's a lovely
not
thing.
How you get subscribers,
and
listeners.
I look forward to not messing it up when I paint it like what I did my oil drip man. Yeah, that front grille on a Camaro, that even as that was the thing as a young teenager, which that grill, that big square grill with a sort of open, I thought, wow, that looks
But as
fantastic.
with the Bastos, I'm going to have to paint that matte black because it's super shiny because it's a toy. I will get the detail brush out and do some things on that. Talking of getting the detail brush out and doing things on that, see how I did that, Scott? Learn. Seamless
Seamless,
professionalism.
seamless. Is that because you've got notes to refer to? Well, he's holding up bits, or the shell of a Mercedes EMG GT3 car,
Mhm.
which is mostly yellow and covered in green snake skin
Yeah,
sort of
it's the
pattern, is
Man
it?
Filters car, and in one of the many attempts at recording this podcast, we discussed not knowing who the actual racing team was, and I meant to go and check, and I didn't. So I just call it the Man Filter car, and that's a Scalauto white kit. Look at the trickiness of getting that in there, mate. Look at that. That was tricky, and also getting the skin in there. That's a Scalauto white kit. Zero paints paint and Slot Fabrique decals, and the Slot Fabrique decals were a major head because you get a lot of snake skin for your money, and I couldn't find a home for a whole load of it. I did do my research. I got a lot of photos of this thing, and the livery changed a lot on this car each time it raced. So you get different bits of skin, but on the decal sheet that Fola has produced, I can only assume it's to do one of the different versions that I just couldn't find a photo of because I've ended up with quite a bit of spare skin.
Can I, I have to ask, how much was the decal sheet?
You're going to make a snide, and that's a word
No,
I don't
I'm
use
not. I'm not.
lightly, but
I'm
it's a
thinking it as
private
a
gag
consumer
between B and
advice.
me. You're going to make a snide comment.
We're talking.
The decal
No, I'm not
sheet
making a snide comment. What I'm
was
doing is
about €18. Paint.
okay. No, it's consumer advice. People may see what you're doing and they may want to emulate your efforts.
Decals about
God knows
18
why, but
quid.
they might want to do
€18, I believe. Paint.
Mhm.
Quite a large jar I got of the probably $6.99 for the paint, a little bit for the primer, and nothing for the time. Rather like wheeler dealers, we don't include the time that it takes to do the
Took the day.
blooming 100 man hours. And as I said to you previously, I have upgraded the facilities at the Oxford Centre for Technical Excellence and Technical
Tell
Paint
our listeners what you've
because this
done.
rocked your
Bear
world.
in mind,
I bought a new extractor
bear,
fan.
bear, I think I don't want to lead the audience, but bear in mind we started with a quote from a Greek philosopher about being happy with what you've got.
No.
Tell us, tell us what you've
Okay,
got.
no, I need to
Tell
justify
us.
this, and
Go
we're
on.
going to go way over an hour and a half now. It wasn't.
I'm just trying to work out how many slot cars I could buy.
It wasn't
It's a
green-eyed
lot.
envy. It was a growing fear that Hero. Be aware if you're thinking of Hero paints, they are not good for the ozone layer, not good for your lungs. So you need a decent mask. I invested in that. You need an extractor fan, and I got a cheap one off of that eBay. Other auction sites are available; they're just not as good. And so I was running that for a while, but when I primed this bad boy with my Halfords primer,
And he's holding up an NSX shell, which has been
another
sprayed
Scalauto,
grey.
the fan just wasn't sucking there were clouds of grey primer everywhere, and I just thought this is not good. So I've upped the facilities and I've bought a new extractor fan, and my god, does it extract. It's a beast of a machine. I nearly got extracted out of the Oxford Centre for Technical Excellence and Technical Extraction. Anyhow, we've got to
And
wind this up now, Scott, because we've gone over
and
time.
how much? No. That's again a bit like talking about the decals. It's consumer advice, so people may want to know. And how much was your extractor
Yes,
fan?
it was. I paid money. I didn't barter. Yes, I did. I did pay money.
How much money? If it helps, just round it to the nearest.
You can't put a
10
price
quid.
on health and lungs, Scott. You can't put a price on them. Just shy of £400. That's a better reaction than the last time I told you.
That's because I misremembered.
You thought it was cheaper.
Four-
Damn, I should have lied and said, "Oh, it's only £100."
You could get an entire field of Formula E slot cars for that. An entire grid. It's
So it's money
fantastic.
well spent, I would say.
400. Mind you, it's not even 4 SRC
It's a
deltas.
bloody good extractor fan. I have
Ah,
nothing to do
it's
with
a good extractor.
airbrush.com. We'll put a picture up of it. It's a beast of a machine, and it's be good. Did I actually swear earlier? I think I did.
Okay,
Sorry. It's be good.
And so, are you looking to take commissions?
I've got to
pay
justify it.
off this
No,
capital
I
investment?
clearly have. You can't see what's off camera here, but I clearly have enough white kits to be keeping myself busy for quite a
It's
while.
now the fans. Those British people remember the Generation game where the prizes were moved past on a conveyor
There's
belt.
more off.
That's kind of what's happening. That's kind of what's happening now. Peter is moving boxes of white
There's
kits
more under
past
the
the
sieve.
front of the camera.
Actually, you can't. Can you see? Yes, you can just see if I carefully point my finger here. This strange shape on the edge of your frame, dear listener.
I thought it was some sort of Art Nouveau.
No, that's a stack of 6 raised sideways white kits. You can't see, but one of them is still in the bubble wrap. I haven't opened that one.
Fantastic.
That, mate.
Well, that's give this more of a. At that point, given that we're all now dumbfounded, I think we should probably wrap it up because we're not going to top a £400 extractor fan.
Oh, but it's good, Scott. My God.
And just again, I'm curious from the environment before the Oxford County Council.
Oh yeah, my neighbours are well pissed
safety
off.
people
Sorry, swore again.
Do you now just spew a plume of high velocity toxic material out over the fence?
Yeah.
Do you?
I do. This won't mean anything to the dear listener viewer, but one of our early recordings, I attempted to get the podcast dog in to the frame, and she's come to speak to me now. Dips, speak. Did the microphone pick that up?
It did. It did. Of course, nobody. If anyone's listening, just think it's you. Except you're now picking them. Oh, hello, Dips.
Leave that alone, you foolish hound. Right.
Definitely no way of topping that one. Okay, say goodbye. It's bye from me, it's bye from the dog, and it's bye from Peter.
Goodbye. Sorry about that. Lord, now you're knocking things over. All right, this sounds long. You get sweet. Couldn't swear that time.